There are places that exist only on certain days of the week. Places that belong to Tuesday or Thursday or Friday, but never quite feel like themselves on any other day. For me, that place was a window seat. Third row from the front, second from the left, and it only ever truly existed on Mondays. When September came, the tree outside was still mostly green, but if you looked carefully at the very edges of its branches, tips were beginning to consider something. I do not remember what subject was taught on those Monday mornings. I do not remember what was written on the board. I remember the light. I remember the way it came through the glass at a low angle in October, turning the dust in the air into something almost worth keeping. There was a boy who sat in front of me that autumn. He always smelled of wood smoke. I never learned his last name. I watched him for 2 weeks try to fold a paper crane from the corner of his geography worksheet. He never finished it, but the tree was gaining color every single week. That was the first thing I learned in that classroom, difference between things that changed slowly and things that changed all at once. By December, the tree had let everything go, every last leaf. I remember thinking it looked embarrassed, standing there with all its structure showing, all its decisions visible. But the longer I looked at it, the less embarrassed it seemed. It was still perfectly itself, just quieter. The day it first snowed, nobody in the class noticed except me, and perhaps the teacher. She paused mid-sentence just for a moment, and I think she looked at it too. We never spoke about it. I spent that whole winter watching the tree hold its shape, watching it stand in the wind without bending, watching the frost coat it each morning and disappear each afternoon and come back again the next day as if nothing had changed. That was the second thing I learned at that window, that endurance does not always look like effort. Spring came back the way it always does, be not announcing itself. One Monday it was still winter. The next Monday something had shifted, not bloomed, not transformed, just leaned a little toward the warmth. I remember the exact Monday I first saw the buds. I counted them. 11 on the branches I could see from my seat. The week after, 23. My mother asked me once what I liked about school. I told her the subjects. I told her the friends. I did not tell her about the tree. Some things, even at that age, you know, are yours alone. I was not a quiet child in general. I was loud in the corridors. I was the one who laughed too long. But at that window, on those Mondays, I was somehow very still. That was the third thing I learned, that you can be more than one kind of person depending on where you are standing and what you are looking at. June came, and with it the last Mondays. And I remember thinking in the very last one that the tree looked like it had forgotten everything that winter had been. I pressed my hand to the glass. I do not know why. They were clearing the desks that week, returning textbooks, peeling drawings off the walls. The room was becoming a room again, less a classroom, more just a space with windows. I stayed at my seat a little longer than the others. After the final bell, just a few minutes. I watched the tree one last time. I think I understood even then that I would remember this. Not for any particular reason, not because anything dramatic had happened here, just because I had shown up, week after week, and paid attention. I drove past the school once a few years ago. The yard looked smaller than I remembered. They always do. The tree was still there. It was autumn again, and the edges of its leaves were beginning to consider something. I think about that window more than I can reasonably explain. Not with sadness, not exactly with longing, more the way you think about a person who taught you something important without knowing they were teaching you anything at all. The tree changed every week. I changed every week. Neither of us noticed the other doing it. And that, I think, is the best kind of growing.